Welcome back to Hear Me Out Sports, where we will be covering quarterbacks today. Run it. All right, week one review. Let's take a quick look at our hits, misses, and close calls. I'm going to start first with misses. All right, we're going to mix it up a little bit today. Joe Flacco. He happened to have a phenomenal game. I don't know if this is something that he can sustain, but we're going to see what he can do. Zach Wilson seems to be improving too, so we'll see when he's coming back. It doesn't look like he'll be back for week 3. Week 4, I would say probably questionable, but maybe by week 5 we'll see him. So keep your eye on that as well. Tom Brady, man, he has just kind of disappointed for fantasy owners this year. The Bucs are not doing bad. I mean, they just won their last one, and they're moving forward, but Tom Brady isn't having the stats. He's kind of quiet. Matt Ryan, on the other hand, he looked old, he played old, and it might be time to get another quarterback. I know in one of my leagues I did have Matt Ryan. I was hopeful for him moving on to another team, but I haven't seen much there, and so for that reason, I've moved on from him. So that'll take us to now our hits. Tua, wow, he went off. And that just proves that he does have the ability to throw downfield, hit multiple targets, and have a comeback win. It was more pass-oriented. Part of that probably came from just being down, and the score had a lot to do with it. But they did really well under that offense. Now, Jared Goff, he did super well as he was connecting and finding Amon-Ra St. Brown, both in the end zone and just deep downfield. He had a phenomenal game. The Lions had a great game. The Lions' offense seems to be something that should be looked at for sure. They've put up over 35 points in both their games so far, so we're going to have to keep our eye on them. Matthew Stafford, he made it, so we weren't too concerned about his arm. We thought that would have been an overreaction to sit him. We started him, and so we hit it. Close calls, Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence, and Patrick Mahomes, all falling kind of close to our threshold of 19 points. And just FYI, this for all our videos, it doesn't matter much to QBs, but PPR points. So, Patrick Mahomes barely missed it. Trevor Lawrence, I think, barely got it if I remember right, but all these guys are super close. Now, with that, we're going to kick it off into Thursday night football. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers at Cleveland playing the Browns. Both these quarterbacks, we're sitting. Trubisky continues to perform at an average level. Nothing super impressive there. And he's only getting 5.1 yards per pass attempt, which, I mean, what can you truly do with that? I think he has a chance to be a fringe player, so I guess if you don't have other good options, yeah, play him. You'll see kind of with these other starts and sits where to rack and stack him. He's going to be around that 19 points, I believe, but below it. Jacoby Brissett, with that fourth quarter ankle injury, I'm a little concerned. It does sound like he's still going to play this upcoming week, but keep your eyes on the injury roster as we're moving forward. Look at that report. But I'm sitting him not necessarily because of his injury, but because I think he is in a run-centered offense, and despite Pittsburgh's bottom 30 pass defense, I'm still going to sit him. With that, we'll go to the New Orleans Saints in Carolina against the Panthers. I am, again, sitting both of these guys. Winston's volume is just, that's the one thing that it's the upside. 40 attempts, but he wasn't able to do much with it. I'm not sure if the fractures in his back are impeding his play, but listen, he's going against a solid pass defense of Carolina. They haven't given up many yards. I think their average yards is somewhere around 140, given up through the air. So, I mean, I think he's going to be a sit this time around. Now, Baker Mayfield, I have started him the past couple weeks, and I was hopeful. But I think the problem with Baker Mayfield is that their place calling, their scheme, their offensive scheme, it just isn't the solution, and they haven't really been able to produce much. DJ Moore in a lot of leagues is kind of hurting people because he's not getting targeted, and he's arguably their best receiver. Now, them going and facing a good New Orleans Saints defense, I think that lowers his ceiling even more. And so, do I think he can pass 19 points? Yes. Do I think he will pass 19 points? No. So both of these players are fringe players for me. So if you have no other options, yeah, maybe you got to play him. Now moving over to Houston Texans. Given the Bears' number 7 ranked defense and the Texans' inability to produce, I've got Mills on the bench against it again this week. Justin Fields will also be a sit, as the team has mainly found success in the run game. They only had 11 pass attempts, if I'm remembering correctly, and he completed 7 of those. And listen, 11 pass attempts, that's nothing. Like, you don't want to start a quarterback who has only 11 passes in a game. You're going to need to be scoring on half of those for him to break that 90-point threshold. And for that reason, I'm going to bench him until I see the Bears running a more pass, I guess a 50-50 pass-run offense. But until then, Justin Fields is kind of going to be taking up space on that bench. Now let's go over to Indianapolis, where we have the Chiefs and Colts. Mahomes, he's just going to be a start. That's all there is to it. He was close to breaking threshold. I think he was a point and some change away, which isn't much, but it was one of his lowest games that we're probably going to see from him in a while. I don't see that going forward. I think going against Colts, he's going to rack up some more points, so keep him started. I don't think I need to convince too many people to keep him started. I do hope to see a bounce back from the Chiefs this game, though. So now in 2 games, Matt Ryan has 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions. Now, if that's not a concerning statistic, I do not know what is. The upside is that facing a good team like the Chiefs, Colts will likely be down in points, and they will need to be throwing through the air to make the comeback. But I don't know if the Colts can do that. So, Matt Ryan, you're on the bench. Now, Buffalo Bills versus Miami Dolphins. Very solid performance from both these quarterbacks. I mean, in general, but last week. It remains as an automatic start for me for Josh Allen. He has 614 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 69 attempts in the first 2 weeks. That is very good statistics coming from a QB. 7 touchdowns alone. He's just racking up the points, and he's doing very well. Now, Tua, I am a little bit worried about starting this time. He performed very well last week. The week before that, he didn't break our threshold, but he did get some decent points. But now he's going against a Bills defense, which anyone who's watched any Bills game, I mean, they are a force to be reckoned with. I would say that the highlight of the Buffalo Bills is not actually their offense, it's their defense. Their defense is ridiculous. So, I mean, I am a little bit concerned. But given the ceiling that he showed us in week 2, his ability to come back and to rely on the passing game and function in that offense, we're going to have him as a start. Now let's go on to a division game right here in the Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings. Jared Goff played very well last game. He scored over 35 points. The Lions, as I mentioned, have scored over 35 points in the last 2 games, and I expect that high scoring to continue. Now, the other factor is, what will the Minnesota Vikings score? I think Kirk Cousins could struggle under the pressure. If you've seen the first 2 Lions games, they have been providing a lot of pressure to the quarterback. Jalen Hurts found success, though, because of his feet. So I don't think Kirk Cousins will find the same success. In fact, in their last game, he struggled because he was pressured so much. So I've got him as a bench. Now, that could limit Minnesota's scoring if it is what I think is going to happen. And that could mean that Detroit relies more heavily on the running game because they do have a phenomenal running game. So I guess let's keep in mind that Jared Goff, he's probably going to get you above 19 points. That's what I'm thinking. But I don't think he's going to be getting you anything like 30 points unless this game becomes a shootout with high scoring. So we're going to leave Goff as a start, and we're going to sit Kirk Cousins. Now we're going to New England with the Patriots versus the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, another stellar game, another automatic start, and I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. So keep him started until further notice. Mac Jones has yet to break 14 points. Now, he's not looking bad by any means, but he just is not producing. So I think that going against the Ravens, he's still not going to produce. I think he's going to be right around that 14, 15 point range, and that just doesn't meet our standard here, so we're going to have him on the bench. I think he is a solid, consistent, average option if you have no one else. But listen, that's just not what we need. We need some players that are going to show out and win us some leagues. Now we got the Cincinnati Bengals versus the New York Jets. I'm starting both these guys. Joe Burrow, very concerned about. He hasn't had the greatest games, but he's still been able to put up over 19 points. And so I just really worry about this offense. They have not looked good, and I don't think it's all the blame on the Bengals offensive line. I think Burrow's kind of had some mistakes and maybe held on the ball too long sometimes, but I do hope to see him break that 19-point threshold. He's a fringe star for me. I think it might be past 19, but maybe not past 22 points. We'll see, though. But yeah, going with Flacco, his stats really aren't bad this year. This year he has 63 completions on 103 attempts, people. Let me say that again. 103 attempts. So that is nuts. I mean, both of those, I believe, are league records right now. He's leading the league in completions and attempts, and that produced 616 yards, 5 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. So I think if there's a solid battle between these two teams, that could elevate his game, and I think he's going to be breaking that 19-point threshold. I'm starting to come around to the Joe Flacco side. We'll see what happens, though, when Zach Wilson comes back. I think that's going to be an interesting discussion. Now we've got the Tennessee Titans versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr. I'm not sold on Carr yet, but I feel like he has the potential to blow up on any given week. Weeks 1 and 2, he's gotten 16.8 and 18.98 points respectively. Now, both of those are below our 19-point threshold, but you can see he's working his way towards there. I think this is going to be the week that he breaks that threshold. I think he's going against a team that relies very heavily on the run, and as long as you can stop the run, you can pretty much stop the team. But we're gonna see how it treats him. I also am struggling trusting Ryan Tannehill, but with both these quarterbacks being fringe players for me, I think Tannehill will come up a little short. I think Derek Carr will go a little bit past, and I think Tannehill will be a little short. So, hence why I have him as a start and a sit. Now we've got the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington Commanders. I think this is a great game for quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts has been producing very well, and he's going against Carson Wentz, who their team hasn't necessarily been producing super well, but Carson Wentz has decent points in fantasy football, and that's all we're looking at. Jalen Hurts remains a start for me because seeing what Jared Goff was able to do to Commanders defense, I think Jalen Hurts has the potential to score big. I mean, Jared Goff is putting up 35-plus points. No telling what Jalen Hurts can really do. Now, I don't want Carson Wentz, but given his last 2 weeks, I feel like I have to start Carson Wentz. He's totaled 87 attempts. Off that, he's had 57 completions and 7 touchdowns for an average of 29.3 points, making him the 4th-ranked quarterback behind Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts. Now, that is awesome. The fact that you have Carson Wentz up there with these other 3 big names, I think that this could be a good high-scoring game between the two teams, but we'll see where it goes. I've got him in the start column. Now we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Trevor Lawrence has one of his best games in the NFL last week and still was unable to break 19 points. So I think he is starting to produce. I think he's starting to hit his stride and be efficient, but I mean, he's still unable to score big. His ceiling's kind of low, so I'm keeping him on the bench. Justin Herbert, this comes with a caveat that if he's not healthy, then I'm going to sit him. He was really struggling through the end of last game, but since we have a long break going from Thursday now to Sunday, he has time to heal up. We'll see how he's looking. We'll see how he's moving. But it was a little bit concerning. He was still able to make some bomb passes there at the end. But I am a little bit concerned. So I have him to start calling him if he's feeling all right. But if he's not, then that's easily put back to a sit column. I think he could still produce more than 19 points, but it's a little concerning. Now let's go to Los Angeles Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals. Matthew Stafford is still a star for me, especially going up against the Cardinals. Last week, he was able to see more success than week 1, and it wasn't all about Cooper Kupp, which is good. He was able to spread the love a little bit more. Now, that being said, multiple interceptions in both games so far, and that hurts. That digs into his point total. So let's keep that in mind. Kyler Murray consistently broken the threshold, even though the Cardinals' offense is looking like absolute trash. So I'm keeping him in there. I think that we haven't seen his ceiling yet. I think he's going to produce big eventually. It's just against what team. I don't think necessarily against the Rams, but I think he has. I think he's going to continue to do what he's been doing. Now, we'll go over to Atlanta Falcons versus the Seahawks. Marcus Mariota, I've really liked him. I'll start, though, with Geno Smith consistently being a sit for me because, nothing notable has happened. Week 1 was all right. People got hyped and probably not drafted him, but picked him up out of free agency. I was never sold. Now, Marcus Mariota, on the other hand, has shown well in 2 weeks, and I think that he's done much better than I anticipated. I hope to see some decent points scored against the Seahawks this week. So for that reason alone, because of the matchup, I'm starting Marcus Mariota. I don't see me starting him in the future much, but let's keep our eye on him. Green Bay Packers versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this is my rivalry of the week. Listen, this is a struggle. Both of these quarterbacks are phenomenal quarterbacks who will probably go down in the Hall of Fame and have done very little this season. So, very concerning. Aaron Rodgers, another tough week against the Buccaneers' tough defense for this Week 3 matchup. Green Bay has also plans on using their running backs a lot more in their game. Aaron Rodgers has said it, and I think that they're starting to scheme more for the running backs. They do have 2 great running backs who seem to split a lot of reps, most going to Aaron Jones as far as the production is concerned. And so it depends on how they use the running backs. If they decide that, hey, we want to pass it to our running backs on some swings or screens or something like that, then yeah, that obviously raises his upside a little bit more. But I've got him in the bench column until I can see him produce again. Tom Brady has also been quiet in his first 2 weeks, as we mentioned earlier, and against a decent pass defense, and without Evans or Godwin back, I'm going to keep him sat. I think they both rely heavily on their running game, and both are fringe players for me, but it kind of depends on how the game goes, and I'm expecting this to be a low-scoring game, so I've got them both benched. You may think I'm crazy in that, but that's kind of what week 1 and 2 has shown me, and until I see otherwise, they're both benched. Now we've got San Francisco 49ers versus the Denver Broncos, and Jimmy G is stepping up to the plate, and I'm actually very hopeful for Jimmy G. I think he can get some decent points. He did all right last year for fantasy owners, more right when he stepped in than, I guess, towards the end. But with him being the highest paid, some may say overpaid, most may say overpaid, backup quarterback, and facing a kind of lackluster defense in Denver, I've got him as a start. Russell Wilson, on the other hand, I've been saying in all my videos, I don't like him. He's not that great of a quarterback in my mind. And I think he's been carried by his team a lot in the past, which has made him look a lot better. But I'll say it again, I'm sitting him. He doesn't seem to produce. Anyone who's watched the games, those passes look horrible. His mobility doesn't look too great, so I'm just not for him. I'm not sold. Russell Wilson is a sit. Now we've got the Dallas Cowboys versus the New York Giants in this Monday night matchup. Cooper Rush had all the opportunity in the world facing the Bengals last week and was still unable to break 14 points, so he remains in the sit column. Daniel Jones doesn't look terrible after week 2, and he's averaged 15.1 points per game, which isn't that bad, but it's not 19 points. So he's also going to be a sit. And that's going to wrap up our quarterback video. Like, comment, subscribe. Sorry this one went a little bit longer. We're trying to get it to you in a quick, nice little package so that you can make your picks. You can decide. Now comment below. Help me, discuss with me, argue with me about what you think my picks are. If you think any of these are ridiculous, like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, then let me know. But with that, we're logging off here at Hear Me Out Sports, and we'll catch you next week.